Rugby Championship Dream Team for the final round of the Rugby Championship. I've gone and picked 15 guys. If you're an All Blacks fan or a Pumas fan, it's probably a good idea to look away now because there's nothing much doing with those two teams. But there's a whole lot of Springboks and a whole lot of Wallabies guys because those were two pretty emphatic victories from those two teams at the weekend. Pick the guys for different reasons, certainly competitive in certain areas. As always, I'll go through the guys, my reasoning, and then you guys can let me know your thoughts at the end. Starting with the forwards. Props. I've gone with Tendai Mtawarira from the Springboks. Interestingly, when I read his stats, no runs. And that's kind of what we know the beast for, is his big runs. He may not be as effective as he was 5 or more years ago, but he's still generally a pretty big ball carrier, but 0 runs in this game. But he made up for it in 2 pretty big areas. Firstly, that scrum was all over the Pumas scrum. I think the Pumas tight head Figalo conceded about 3 penalties, so Tendai being on the loose head is a big part of that. And 13 out of 13 tackles. Immense work rate. So he wasn't doing it ball carrying, but he was doing it defensively. So a prop is there to scrummage, and boy did he do that. Starting this week rather than from the bench, and tackled like a machine. So good on the beast for rolling back the clock and making all those tackles. Other prop, it's another Springbok. I've gone with Trevor Nyakane, and I think I had him in the Dream Team the last round of the Rugby Championship too from the bench. This time he's done it from the starting lineup. He is looking really good, isn't he? You got to be happy with him if you're a Springboks fan right now, because he's always been good, and his numbers probably reflect better than some of the credit he gets, but his numbers and his scrummaging right now is looking like really top. So again, his ball carrying stats are nothing to be that excited about. 2 runs for 1 meter, like, okay, that's fine. But 15 out of 15 tackles, and again, just that scrum. That scrum was all over the Pumas scrum. It's a worrying sign if you're a Pumas fan, but for the Springboks, I saw someone on Twitter write that there were 2 world-class front rows in that game between the 2 teams, but unfortunately for the Pumas, they were both playing for the Springboks. So, yeah, really all over the Pumas front row in that one. So 15 out of 15 tackles from Trevor. Very good effort from him. And to complete the set, I've gone with Bongi and Wanambi at hooker. All Springbok front row. He had a try from the back of a maul, and he's the one who threw that line-out ball in from 5 meters. They went to the front of the line-out, which was probably a smart call. They set a beautiful maul. He was at the back of it and just crashed over the line. So it was 4 runs, 7 meters, 6 from 6 tackles, which is not huge in numbers, but he's 100% completion. And he had line-out throwing, which was 100%. And that's been an issue with his game as well. Marks too at times, but Mbonambi 100%. So very good effort all round from him. You got to know that Marks is going to start at the World Cup, but still knowing that Mbonambi's there and is a capable replacement is also very good news. Can start when needed and still do a very good job. Second row, I did manage to fit a Pumas guy in here. Marcos Kremer from the Pumas. 9 runs for 23 meters is actually very good for a guy who plays second row, but remember, he plays in the back row from time to time, so he is one of those kind of more dynamic locks that we're not that unaccustomed to seeing these days. He had a clean break, 2 defenders beaten, 16 out of 18 tackles. 16 out of 18. The next best Pumas player had 9. He had 16, so that's a really, really impressive effort from him. Also, 5 line-out wins, which was the most for anybody in the Rugby Championship this weekend. I think the next was 4. He also managed the turnover. He did concede 3 penalties, which is a black mark on his record, but for the most part, in a team of guys that wasn't that outstanding at the weekend, he was one of the outstanding guys, so I've gone with him. I've also gone with Evan Etzebeth. I was really torn because Mostert was so good as well, but I've gone with Etzebeth. 8 runs for 23 meters as again, and he is a genuine out-and-out lock, but he's still got good run meters there. He had a clean break, and that was a thing of beauty. I think he ended up passing to Mostert, who passed to Peter Steph-Tutoy. It was like 3 really tall guys just out in the open play. It was a joy to behold. 2 defenders beaten and offload, 10 from 10 tackles, 5 line-out wins. Oh, he's also 5. I thought the next wish was 4, so 5 for both these guys, top of the week. 1 line-out steal. He did concede 2 penalties as well. Etzebeth sometimes does give away penalties. That's kind of a thing. But overall, man, how good is it to see that guy in top form as well? The Springboks, I've said it before, are just absolutely blessed with locking depth at the moment. Into the loose forwards, I've gone with Dwayne Vermeulen. And remember, I'm doing this kind of fantasy style, so I know he's a number 8, but I'm just putting him in that category of loose forwards. 11 runs for 40 metres is a very good return by anyone's standards. 2 defenders beaten, 7 from 7 tackles, so again, it's that 100% thing. He's not a Peter Sefti-Toy who makes kind of 15, 20 tackles a game, but when he does make tackles, he makes them stick. Also managed the turnover, which he is very good at. 4 line-out wins as well, and very good under the high ball. So very safe pair of hands. You're pretty confident that at restart time he's going to gather the ball pretty well. Although at times the South African exits or kickoffs weren't the best, but I think for the most part he was putting in a pretty good effort. Next, and I did get an All Black in here. I've gone with Kieran Reid. Kieran Reid had a try assist. It was that little tip back for Nani Laumape. That was a good bit of play. When people were perhaps starting to switch off, he was still focused on the job at hand. He had 7 runs for 7 metres, which is again not all that fantastic, but it's a decent work rate. 9 passes, 22 tackles. Now his tackle total count was of 28, so he did miss 6, which is troubling. But 22 tackles for the weekend. The next best, again, and it's a good comparison, next best of both games was 17. He made 22, so putting in a decent shift, even if he missed a few. Managed the turnover and 2 line-out wins as well. There's been a fair bit of talk about Kieran Reid perhaps not being as good as we know he can play, but this is one game where he really showed that he still wants to be there, and he deserves to be there. So a losing team, missed some tackles, but I think better than his previous weeks anyway. Next, I've gone with Michael Hooper from the Wallabies. 18 runs is a lot of runs, but they did have a lot of ball. 41 metres, so if you look at Vermeulen, he had 40 metres, but from 11 runs, so average metres per run is not that high, but that's a hell of a work rate. Again, they did have a lot of ball. 3 passes, 8 from 8 tackles, so 100%. 2 turnovers, which is the most anybody got this week. And no penalties conceded, which is good. He is listed as 5 turnovers conceded, which is, again, a black mark on his record. And some could even argue the fact that he's not the tallest guy helped reduce New Zealand to 14 men. But he still played on after getting whacked in the head and went on to play pretty well. So a good night for him as Wallabies captain for sure. Kind of, in terms of the record books, that's one of the biggest wins over the All Blacks in history. So he'll go down in history as the captain for that side. Next, into the backs, I've gone with Nick White from the Wallabies. He had a try, which was mostly made by Karevi, but it was still a very good try, good support line. 14 runs for 43 metres is pretty good for a number 9, who's more known for his kicking than his running, but hey, he certainly did a good job there. 2 clean breaks, 5 defenders beaten. That's a good number. 80 passes, again, they did have a whole lot of ball. He still managed 4 kicks, but it was good to see. The instructions were obviously to run the ball a bit more rather than just always kick to the All Blacks, which is often a pretty fatal game plan. 9 from 11 tackles for a scrum half. Also a very good return. So is he ahead of Guinea at the moment? Maybe. On that performance, you'd have to say yes. Fly half. There was probably only this one choice. Handré Pollard. What a performance. I mean, that guy often impresses, but this was like a next level again. 2 tries, one of them he just bulldozed Sanchez for the line. It was showing a bit of strength. Also a try assist, 3 conversions and 5 penalties for a grand total of 31 points, which is massive for an individual. 7 runs, 43 metres, 2 clean breaks, 3 defenders beaten. Again, one of those was Sanchez, who he just ran straight over. An offload and 10 out of 11 tackles. The guy had one of his most complete performances in a Springbok jersey, so very encouraging signs for the Boks there. Please stay fit. Next, and I'm not saying that to curse him, I'm literally like, knock on wood, stay fit. I want the best players from all countries at the World Cup. Even if they're playing New Zealand in the opening round, I still want to see Pollard playing. Midfield, Samu Karevi. Very good performance from him as well. If you're looking at players of the week, Pollard's probably the one from that game, maybe Karevi from this game. One try assist, which was that one to Nick White, where he did his best Jonah Lomu impression and just bulldozed, like at least 2 of the All Blacks, ran straight over Beauden Barrett. 20 runs, 88 metres, 3 clean breaks, 5 defenders beaten. I'm surprised it's only 5. 1 offload, 6 from 6 tackles, which again is not that many in numbers, but the percentage is 100, and the All Blacks didn't have all that much ball. So 6 tackles in the scheme of things is probably still pretty good, and he's known to miss a tackle every now and again. That's the biggest weakness in his game, but not this week, so very good effort from him. Also 7 passes, so very busy man. Other midfielder, I was really torn. I could have gone with a few different guys. I ended up going with James O'Connor. I mean, when you compare him to Karevi's your leading guy this week for sure, but O'Connor certainly added something else to that midfield. He had 2 try assists. One of them, that first try, kind of came out of nowhere. He recovered a pretty good ball and fed it through to Hodge, who got the try. 13 runs, 12 metres. Again, that's not setting the world on fire, but those 2 try assists were key. 2 defenders beaten, a clean break, 3 offloads. So he does bring something else to the game that maybe you don't get when you play Karevi and Kurandrani alongside each other. So maybe this is a good combo going forward. 6 out of 10 tackles is not the best number, so we'd like to bump those up. That's the black mark on his record. A kick and 12 passes. So doing that distribution role that I guess he is there for is very good. And he's versatile enough to shift around as the play goes on too. Outside backs, I've gone with Reece Hodge. I mean, he scored 2 tries, so it was going to be hard for me to leave him out, even if it wasn't a perfect performance from him. Either it was still better than I think we've seen from him on the wing for quite some time. I wasn't convinced about him on the wing at all, but prove me wrong, maybe he's doing that. 8 runs, 94 metres is among the best in the week. 5 passes, 4 clean breaks is among the best. 6 defenders beaten, again, very high. 3 offloads. 2 out of 6 tackles is a problem, and his defence is a problem. So he will get targeted at the World Cup if his defence continues that way. They need to put guys running hard at him in practice to get his tackle technique sorted, because he does struggle a wee bit. I mean, all outside backs generally have middling to poor, not all, but a lot of them have poor numbers because they're often in difficult situations, but still 2 out of 6 is not a good look in anybody's books. But his kicking for a touch when they had penalties, that big boot of his is also very beneficial. Didn't need it, but he's got those big penalty shots in his arsenal as well. Next, I'm going with Kurtley Beale from the Wallabies again. Really good try at the end, a bit of magic from him. That's the kind of classic Kurtley Beale we're used to seeing. It was encouraging. 13 runs for 112 metres, which I believe is the number 1 guy this week. So a lot of run metres for Kurtley. Playing at 15, you're going to get that opportunity to rack up the metres. 3 clean breaks, 6 defenders beaten. Again, good number. 5 out of 8 tackles. Better than Hodge, but again, area for improvement. 14 passes and 1 turnover. So if you look at those tackle stats, 5 out of 8, 2 out of 6, in a game where the All Blacks have more ball, that will be a problem. But if you can control possession, what they bring on attack, I guess, makes up for it. Kurtley has never been the best defender, but 14 passes. You got to like having O'Connor and Beale there as well. All that playmaking to come from those Wallabies backs. Lastly, I've gone with a Springbok. I've gone with Cheslin Colby as my other outside back. He had a try assist. The guy is always involved in everything. 7 runs for 42 metres for him is relatively low. A clean break, 2 defenders beaten, 9 from 11 tackles. His tackle stats for an outside back are generally pretty top notch, and he doesn't disappoint again. 19 passes. He filled in at number 9 when Faf de Klerk was in the bin, and the box actually kind of ramped it up a gear. So very good effort from Cheslin. He is one of my favourite players to watch as well. The big heart on a guy who's not a big physical specimen. You can't really compare his heart compared to pretty much anyone else. He's just a top athlete. So yeah, those are my 15 players of the week. A Puma, an All Black, and a whole lot of Wallabies and Springboks. Kind of goes with the results. You guys let me know your thoughts on these picks. There are always other guys I could have gone for. Not all the All Blacks were that bad. I've been a bit hard on them, but it's kind of based on the result. The Pumas guys, probably one of their worst performances of the year thus far, although they've not played much in the Pumas jersey. We know those guys can do better. Springboks and Wallabies, absolutely top stuff. So congrats to the Springboks again for winning the Rugby Championship. You guys let me know your thoughts on the 15, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.